Can you walk me home? The little boy's voice was soft, polite, the kind that made you think of bedtime stories and scraped knees, not danger. Amani Reed looked down from refilling coffee mugs and found him standing there at Moonlight Diner. 7 years old, maybe, neatly dressed in a way that spoke of money and careful hands. Two alone. Where's your dad, sweetheart? He's busy. The dinner rush was finally slowing. The diner smelled like buttered toast and old vinyl. Her feet were screaming. Her tips tonight barely covered groceries. But something about the way this child's hands twisted together like he was holding onto something invisible and precious made her bend down to his eye level. It's dark, he added quietly, glancing toward the fogged windows. And they don't like me being alone. Amani's practiced smile stayed in place, but her mind was already sorting through possibilities. Wealthy parents, drivers, nannies, the kind of life where a kid got designer clothes but forgot to say thank you. Except this boy was different. When he said thank you, he meant it. I finish in 10 minutes, she told him gently. If your dad's okay with it, I can walk you to the corner. His whole face lit up like she'd just offered him the world. Thank you. I'm June. If you're enjoying this story, please like, subscribe, and share for more gripping tales that'll keep you up at night. Your support means everything. Now let's see what Amani just agreed to. She didn't notice the man watching from a shadowed booth near the back of the diner. Black coat, unmoving, eyes sharp as broken glass. 10 minutes later, they stepped outside together. The city hummed with that restless late-night energy. Neon signs buzzed overhead. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed and went quiet. June stayed pressed close to her side, like he'd practiced this staying small, staying safe. Who doesn't like you being alone? Amani asked, keeping her voice light. He kicked a pebble down the sidewalk. Bad men. She laughed softly, the sound more tired than amused. There are bad men everywhere, honey. You just walk fast. No. His voice was suddenly serious. Adult serious. These ones follow. Amani's laugh died in her throat. That was when she noticed the black car parked across the street. Engine running, headlights off. Just sitting there, waiting, breathing exhaust into the cold night air. Her smile faded. Her stride quickened. And the footsteps behind them matched her pace. She didn't look back. Looking back meant acknowledging the thing you were running from. Instead, she kept her hand firm on June's shoulder, guiding him forward. 1 block, 2 blocks. Almost at the corner where streetlights pooled bright and safe. Then the footsteps stopped. Not because they'd given up, because something worse had arrived. Miss? A voice called from the darkness behind them. Smooth, polite, empty. You dropped something. Amani didn't turn around. June's fingers clenched around her hand so tight it hurt. A black sedan rolled forward, blocking the sidewalk ahead. Smooth. Practiced. The kind of movement that said this had been done before. 2 men stepped out. No masks, no rush, no need. They moved with the kind of calm that only came from knowing that nobody would stop them. That nobody could. Amani's pulse roared in her ears. Her training from growing up in neighborhoods like this screamed at her. Run, fight, scream, do something. But June was here, small, trusting, already half hidden behind her legs. She pulled him fully behind her and faced the men. Please, she said, hating how her voice shook. He's just a child. One man smiled. It was the kind of smile that never reached the eyes. That's exactly the problem. Before Amani could move, could think, could breathe, the sound of another engine cut through the night. Low, powerful, unmistakable. A second sedan slid to a perfect stop at the curb. Then a third. Doors opened in flawless synchronization, like something choreographed, like something military. Men in dark suits emerged. They didn't run. They didn't shout. They just moved shadows that had learned how to kill and decided to wear expensive clothes while doing it. The two men who'd been so calm a moment ago froze. Amani felt it then. That shift in the air. The kind that sucked all the oxygen out of a street and replaced it with something cold and electric and deadly. A tall man stepped out of the lead car. Black coat that moved like water. Long dark hair pulled back severely. Face carved from stone and authority and something older than fear. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Step away from my son." The word son landed like a gunshot in the quiet street. The two men scrambled backward, stumbling over apologies and excuses that spilled out too fast, too desperate, too late. The tall man lifted one hand. Just one. A simple gesture. The men were dragged back into the darkness by the suited shadows. No drama, no screaming. They just disappeared, like they'd never existed at all. June let out a breath he'd clearly been holding for blocks. "Daddy?" he said simply. Like this was normal. Like men didn't just vanish into the night. Amani turned slowly. Her body felt like it was moving through water. The man's gaze found her for the first time. Sharp, measuring, the kind of look that saw through skin and bone and found out exactly what you were made of. "You're hurt?" he asked. His voice was surprisingly gentle, surprisingly human. She shook her head, not trusting her voice. June beamed up at her like she'd just slayed a dragon. "This is Miss Amani. She walked me home." The man studied her. Not like she was a woman. Not like she was helping. And like she was a problem he hadn't anticipated and didn't know how to categorize yet. Finally, he spoke. "Thank you." The gratitude felt heavy in a way normal thanks never did. Like it came with weight, with meaning, with consequence. Amani should have walked away, should have said, "You're welcome," and run back to the diner and pretended none of this happened. But June tugged her hand again, that same gentle pull that had started this whole night. "Can she come with us? Just until the gate?" The man hesitated. Something flickered behind his eyes. Calculation, concern, decision. Then he nodded once. That was how Amani found herself standing before a compound gate that looked like it belonged in a crime drama. Steel, cameras, the kind of silence that came from serious money and even more serious security. "Miss Amani," the man said, his tone formal now, careful. "I'm Kang Dae-hyun." The name meant nothing to her, but the way every guard in sight straightened their spine that told her everything. "My son trusts you," he continued, watching her with those sharp, assessing eyes. "That's rare." June looked up at her with something that looked dangerously close to hope. "Will you come back tomorrow?" She smiled despite everything. "I have work." Dae-hyun's gaze sharpened in a way that made her stomach drop. "You won't," he said calmly. Not a threat, a fact. Not there. The next morning, Moonlight Diner was closed. Police tape stretched across the doors. Windows dark, no explanation posted, no manager answering calls. Amani stood on the sidewalk, her work apron still in her bag, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Kang Dae-hyun. You're being watched. Come now. Fear twisted cold in her gut. But when she arrived at the compound, pulse hammering, questions burning, June ran straight into her arms like she was family. Like she'd always been family. That was when she learned the truth. Kang Dae-hyun wasn't just wealthy. He was the quiet ruler of Seoul's underworld. The man other criminals feared enough to disappear without asking questions. The name was whispered in back rooms and dark alleys. The shadow that the shadows themselves feared, and someone had just marked his son as leverage. The attack came 3 nights later. Gunfire shattered the compound gates like breaking glass. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Men shouted orders in Korean she couldn't understand. Amani's hands shook as she locked June in the panic room, a space she'd never imagined she'd actually use. "Stay here," she whispered, forcing her voice to stay steady. "No matter what you hear, no matter what, don't open this door for anyone but me or your father." June's eyes were wide, but he nodded. Brave, always so brave. She turned to leave and nearly collided with Dae-hyun. Blood streaked his white shirt sleeve. His jaw was set in a way that made him look like something ancient and deadly. "Take the tunnel," he ordered, his voice clipped, controlled. "Now!" "I'm not leaving him." His eyes burned into hers. "If you stay, you die." She didn't move, didn't blink. "Then I stay." Something changed in his expression then. Surprise, then something else. Something that looked like respect, sharp and sudden and grudging. He nodded once. "Then don't fall behind." They ran. Through corridors that smelled like gunpowder and fear. Past bodies she tried not to look at. Down staircases that seemed to go on forever. The betrayal, she learned later, had come from inside. A coup. An attempt to take what Dae-hyun had built. A name she never heard, but would never forget because of what it cost. By dawn, it was over. Silently, thoroughly. The way only someone like Kang Dae-hyun could end things. Days passed. The city exhaled. June slept without nightmares for the first time since Amani had known him. She sat on the terrace one morning, wrapped in a borrowed coat that probably cost more than her entire wardrobe, watching dawn bleed gold and pink into the Seoul sky. "You can leave," Dae-hyun said quietly, appearing beside her like he always did, silent, unexpected. "I'll make sure you're safe. Protected. You'll never have to worry about money again." She looked at June through the glass doors. He was laughing with one of the guards over a toy plane. His whole face lit up with joy that had been absent those first terrible nights. "And if I stay?" His jaw tightened. A muscle jumped near his temple. "My world destroys things it loves." She met his eyes then. Those sharp, dangerous, surprisingly vulnerable eyes. "Then protect better." For the first time since she'd met him, Kang Dae-hyun smiled. Just barely. Just enough. That night, June crawled into her lap with a crayon drawing. 3 stick figures holding hands. One tall, one small, one with curly hair and a bright smile. "You walked me home," he said sleepily, his head heavy against her shoulder. "So you're family now. That's how it works." Amani swallowed past the lump in her throat. Outside, the city buzzed on millions of people living their lives, unaware that a waitress had stepped into the orbit of a man who ruled the dark, and that he might finally choose to rule it differently, because sometimes family wasn't about blood. Sometimes it was about a little boy asking a stranger for help, and a stranger brave enough to say yes. Hello, my friends. Thanks for joining me on this fascinating story. Before we continue, please kindly help subscribe to the channel, like the video and comment where you are watching from and what time it's at your end. Now let's continue with our story. 3 weeks earlier. The moment they stepped outside Moonlight Diner, Amani felt it. That prickling awareness from growing up in neighborhoods where reading danger was survival. The city had a different pulse at night, restless, hungry, watching. Neon signs buzzed overhead. A siren wailed and died. Car horns, voices, normal sounds, except nothing felt normal. June pressed close, his small hand finding hers. He didn't skip or dawdle like most 7-year-olds. He moved with purpose, with awareness that made her chest tighten. "How far is home?" Amani asked lightly. 4 blocks. 4 blocks. Easy. They passed a convenience store. An old man smoking outside looked up, then quickly looked away. First sign. Half a block later came the second. Footsteps, not rushed, not hiding, just there, matching their pace with casual precision. Amani's pulse kicked. She tightened her grip on June's hand and picked up speed. The footsteps matched. "Miss Amani?" June's voice was small. "It's okay, baby. We're almost there." She wasn't sure that was true. Wasn't sure of anything except the cold weight in her stomach and June's rigid fingers in hers. They turned a corner. The street narrowed. Fewer lights, fewer people. The footsteps turned with them. Don't look back. Never look back. But God, she was scared. June stumbled and she pulled him closer, half lifting him. His breathing had gone shallow. He knew. This little boy already knew what danger sounded like. "They don't like me being alone," he'd said. She understood now. The footsteps stopped. Relief flooded her for 2 seconds before she realized why. They'd stopped because they didn't need to follow anymore. A black sedan rolled out from a side street, smooth and deliberate, blocking the sidewalk ahead. Engine purring, headlights off. Amani's heart slammed against her ribs. 2 men stepped out. Well-dressed, moving with the kind of calm that came from knowing no one would stop them. No masks, no weapons visible. They didn't need either. June's body went rigid. "Miss Amani." His voice cracked. She pulled him behind her, positioning herself between him and the men. Her mind raced run, scream, fight, but this street was empty, and these men had done this before. One smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "Evening, miss." His English was accented but clear. "That's a very special boy you have there." "He's just a child," Amani said, fighting to keep steady. "Exactly." The man stepped forward. Casual, unhurried. "Which is why we need to make sure he gets home safely, to the right home." June's fingers dug into her jacket. The second man moved to flank them, cutting off escape. Professional, practiced. Amani's training screamed at her to do something. But June was here, and these men moved like soldiers, and she was just a waitress who'd said yes to walking a boy home. The first man stopped 3 feet away. Close enough, she could see the cold calculation in his eyes. "We'll take the boy now," he said calmly. Amani's mind flooded with desperate options. Scream, run, fight, anything. "Please." The word came out broken. "He hasn't done anything. He's just a kid walking home." The man's smile thinned. "We know exactly who he is. That's the problem." June's fingers twisted into her jacket. His breathing came in short, terrified gasps. "I have money," Amani tried. "Not much, but—" "We don't want your money, miss." The second man shifted closer, closing the circle. Professional. Patient. The street had emptied like people could smell violence before it happened. "Whatever you want," she said, voice cracking. "He's 7 years old, please." "Step aside, miss. This doesn't have to involve you." "No?" The man reached for his jacket. The sound of an engine cut through the night. Low, powerful, getting closer. Then another, and another. 3 black sedans slid into view with synchronized precision. No screeching tires. Just silent, absolute control. The 2 men froze. Car doors opened in unison. Men emerged 6, 8, 10 in dark tailored suits that moved like a single organism. Like soldiers. The air itself changed. The street went silent. That thick, suffocating silence before violence. Amani felt June's grip loosen slightly. Not from fear, from relief. A man stepped from the lead sedan. Tall. Black coat like liquid. A long dark hair pulled back severely. Face carved from stone and authority and something deadly. He didn't rush. I didn't need to. The suited men parted for him. Amani felt the power shift physically. The 2 men who'd been so calm suddenly looked small. Trapped. Their hands went still. The tall man's gaze swept the scene. When his eyes landed on June, something flickered. Protection. He stopped 10 feet away. Didn't raise his voice. "Step away from my son." 3 words, spoken like a verdict. The 2 men stumbled backward. Apologies spilled in rapid Korean stammering, desperate, terrified. The tall man lifted one hand. 2 suited men moved forward. The kidnappers didn't resist. They just went. Dragged into darkness like they'd never existed. No sounds, no struggle. Gone. Amani's legs nearly gave out. June let go of her jacket. "Daddy," he said simply. The word hit Amani like a blow. "Daddy!" The man's eyes, sharp, dangerous, shifted to her. Really seeing her. "You're hurt?" His voice was surprisingly gentle. She shook her head. June stepped around her. "This is Miss Amani. She walked me home." The man, June's father, dear God, studied her with intensity that made her transparent. Like he could see every mistake, every choice that brought her here. "Thank you," he said finally. The gratitude felt heavy, dangerous. Amani should have walked away, should have said, "You're welcome," and run. But June tugged her hand. "Can she come with us? Just until the gate?" The man hesitated. Something flickered behind his eyes. Then he nodded once. That was how Amani found herself in the back of a sedan that smelled like leather and money, watching the city blur past, while a little boy's hand in hers and a dangerous man's eyes in the rearview mirror. She'd said yes to walking a boy home. She'd just stepped into something enormous. The compound appeared like something from another world. Steel gates rose 3 stories, cameras tracking their approach. No visible guards, but Amani felt eyes everywhere. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was controlled. The sedan glided through gates that opened without sound. June's hand stayed wrapped around hers. He pointed at a koi pond, chattering about fish names. Like fortress compounds were normal. Inside, wealth without warmth. Minimalist furniture. Gallery art. Everything pristine except one toy plane on a side table. Impossibly small and out of place. June tugged her toward it. "Want to see it fly?" "June." Dae-hyun's voice cut through. Give us a moment." The boy looked up at Amani. "Don't leave, okay?" Something in her chest cracked. "I promise." He ran off. The silence felt dangerous. Dae-hyun gestured toward a chair. Amani sat on the edge, every instinct screaming run. He remained standing, studying her. You didn't ask questions, he said finally. On the street. Why? June was scared. Questions could wait. Something flickered in his eyes. My son trusts you. He doesn't trust easily. He's a good kid. He's my world. The words came quiet, final. Which makes you a complication. I just walked him home. You put yourself between armed men and my son. You stayed when you should have run. He paused. That's not nothing, Miss Reed. The use of her last name sent ice down her spine. I know everything about you now. Your address. Your work history. Your debts. His expression didn't change. That's not a threat. It's protection. Mine, and now yours, whether you want it or not. I don't need protection. You do. My world isn't kind to outsiders. Those men tonight, they're not the only ones watching my son. Anyone who helps him becomes visible. The weight settled over her. I should go. Your diner. She froze. Moonlight Diner. You work nights. You'll be opening tomorrow at 6 a.m. Don't. His eyes held hers. Don't go back there. That's my job. It's not safe. Neither is this. She gestured at everything. I didn't ask for this. No. Something like regret crossed his face. But kindness has consequences, especially the kindness shown to my son. June's voice echoed from deeper in the compound. Dae-hyun's expression softened. He'll be disappointed if you leave without saying goodbye. A command wrapped in courtesy. 20 minutes later, after promising June she'd visit soon, a promise that felt like a trap, Amani found herself in a car driven by a silent man in an expensive suit. The city looked darker now, more aware. Her apartment building appeared unchanged. Same chipped paint, same flickering hallway light. But her door was unlocked. Amani's hand froze on the handle, breath catching. She always locked it. Always. Twice. The door swung open under her touch, revealing darkness beyond, and from somewhere inside, the faint sound of something moving. The thing moving inside her apartment was a shadow. Amani's scream died as the figure stepped into the light. One of Dae-hyun's men. Black suit. Expressionless. Miss Reed, Mr. Kang requests that you don't stay here tonight. It's not secure. Her apartment, her one safe place, violated. She didn't argue. Morning came with a phone call. Moonlight Diner is closed. Her manager's voice cracked. Police were here. I wouldn't say why. Don't come in. The line went dead. Amani ran anyway. Yellow tape stretched across the entrance. Windows dark. The neon open sign is gone. Just silence. What happened? She demanded of a nearby cop. He looked through her. Move along, miss. I work here. Not anymore. Her landlord didn't answer. Then his number disconnected. Her bank card declined everywhere. Account restricted. Contact your branch. The branch manager looked contaminated by her presence. There's a hold on your account. Federal investigation. I can't tell you more. Federal? I'm a waitress. I'm sorry. He wasn't. Outside, the city buzzed on. Normal lives, coffee, laughter. Amani stood on the sidewalk and felt everything crumble. Her phone buzzed. Kang Dae-hyun. Come now, we need to talk. She got in the car that appeared like a shadow manifesting. The compound felt different. Less fortress, more traps. Dae-hyun waited in a war room. Monitors, maps, files spread across a table. Sit. Amani sat. Your diner, your apartment, your bank account, all compromised. Not by me. Then who? People who want leverage against me? My son is that leverage, and you became part of that equation the moment you protected him. What are you? Kang Dae-hyun. Like the name explained everything. I control my interests. Business interests most people pretend don't exist. Shipping, real estate, information, other things. You're a criminal. I'm a necessity. Seoul's underworld doesn't run on chaos. It runs on order, my order. And June? Pain flickered across his face. Raw. His mother died 2 years ago. Car accident that wasn't. Since then, June has been a target. Insurance that I stay cooperative. But you're not. No, which makes my son more valuable to people who want me gone. And you're now a variable they're eliminating. Amani's laugh came bitter. So I have no job, no home, no money, no choice. You have one. Dae-hyun leaned forward. Stay here, protected. Help me keep my son alive until I end this. Or leave. Take money, new identity, disappear. But they've seen you with June. They know he trusts you. If you leave, he didn't finish. If she left, they'd use her anyway. Bait or corpse. Silence stretched. Amani thought about her empty apartment, her closed diner, her frozen account, her evaporated life. Then she thought about June's drawing. 3 stick figures. Family now. I will stay. Dae-hyun's eyes held hers. You understand what that means? No, but I'm not letting a 7-year-old pay for my kindness. Something shifted in his expression. Respect. Before he could respond, one of his men entered, phone extended. Dae-hyun's face went stone as he read. He turned it toward Amani. 4 words. The compound became Amani's world. 3 weeks passed in a strange rhythm breakfast with June, afternoons watching his schoolwork, evenings when Dae-hyun appeared and disappeared like a ghost. She learned the guards' names, learned which hallways had cameras. I learned that silence meant safety. She learned that June screamed in his sleep. The first time, Amani ran before thinking, bare feet on cold marble. June sat upright, tears streaming, shaking. Hey. She gathered him close. I'm here. You're safe. They took you. He sobbed. The bad men took you and Daddy couldn't stop them. I'm right here. She pressed his hand to her chest. Feel my heartbeat? It became routine. 3 nights a week. She'd hold him until the shaking stopped, until he fell back asleep clutching her hand. During the day, he drew obsessively. Pictures of the compound with exaggerated walls. Pictures of her and Dae-hyun standing guard. Pictures where everyone held weapons except him. He held crayons. You're safe here, Amani told him one afternoon. I know. He didn't look up. But safety isn't the same as happiness. 7 years old and too wise. Dae-hyun found her on the terrace one evening, watching city lights blur into constellations. He talks about you constantly. Amani didn't turn. He's a good kid. He used to talk about his mother that way, before. The weight of that word hung between them. I failed her. Thought control meant protection. His laugh was bitter. I was wrong. Amani looked at him, his face shadowed, vulnerable. You can't control everything. No, but I can try, and failing again isn't an option. Something shifted, not attraction. Something deeper, a recognition. He draws you as a knight, Dae-hyun said, almost smiling. Armor and sword. Better than a damsel. You were never that. You stood between armed men and my son. Damsels run. The silence stretched. Dangerous in a different way. Dae-hyun cleared his throat. I should... Yeah. But neither moved. The signs started small. A guard who usually nodded looked through her instead. Another took hushed phone calls in corners. Security logs sat untouched on Dae-hyun's desk. Everything okay? Amani asked one morning. His expression shuddered. Always checking angles. Exhausting. That night, Amani couldn't sleep. June had been nightmare-free for 3 days a record. She wandered toward the kitchen. Voices stopped her outside Dae-hyun's study. Low, urgent. She should leave. She didn't. Can't keep delaying, someone said. Familiar, but she couldn't place it. The timeline is set. Dae-hyun's voice, cold as steel. We move when I say. He's getting suspicious. If we wait. We wait. And the woman? Amani's breath caught. She stays out of it. Whatever happens, she and June stay protected. Even if she becomes a liability? Silence. Heavy. She won't. But if she does, Min-jun. Dae-hyun cut him off. I trust 3 people in this world. My son, her, you. Don't make me regret the order. Min-jun. Dae-hyun's second in command. The one who'd given June the toy plane. Tonight then, Min-jun said. 2 a.m., the East Gate. Footsteps approached. Amani ran, silent, heart slamming. Tonight. East Gate. 2 a.m. Something was happening tonight, and Min-jun trusted Min-jun, who smiled at June, was at the center. She reached her room, pressed her back against the door. Her hands shook. Tonight. 2 a.m. came with gunfire. The first explosion shattered the East Gate exactly where Min-jun had said. Exactly when. Amani was already moving toward June's room when the alarm screamed. She burst through his door. He sat frozen, hands pressed to his ears. We practiced this. Her voice steady despite another explosion. What do we do? Panic room. That's right, come on. They ran through chaos. Guards shouting, boots pounding, glass shattering. The panic room was hidden behind a bookshelf. Biometric lock. Steel walls. Amani's hand was halfway to the scanner when June pulled back. Daddy. He'll come. What if they get him like they got Mommy? Amani knelt, gripped his shoulders. Your dad is the scariest man I've ever met. They should be afraid of him. Gunfire erupted closer. She pressed June's hand to the scanner. The door hissed open. Get inside. Lock it. Don't open for anyone but me or your father. You're coming too? I will, I promise. But I need to make sure it's safe first. June saw through it. You promised not to leave. I'm not leaving. I'm protecting you. She kissed his forehead. Be brave. The door was sealed. Amani nearly collided with Dae-hyun. Blood streaked his shirt. His jaw set with deadly purpose. What are you doing? Finding you. June is locked in the panic room. Safe. She met his eyes. Where you should be. This is my fight. An explosion cut them off. The wall erupted. Armed men poured through. Dae-hyun moved. Amani had seen him as dangerous. This was different. This was violence perfected. But there were too many. A man grabbed her. She fought, elbow to ribs. Heel to instep, but he was trained too. Then he wasn't holding her. Dae-hyun stood over the body, breathing hard, eyes burning. The tunnels! Now! They ran through hidden corridors, down spiral stairs. Behind them, footsteps, shouts. Min-jun! Amani gasped. I heard him. He knew. I know. He's been feeding them information for months. Dae-hyun's voice was flat. Tonight was his final payment. You knew? I suspected. Now I'm certain. His smile was terrible. And he'll regret certainty. The tunnel opened into a garage. Black vehicles, armed men. Get her out, Dae-hyun ordered. North Safe House. What about June? I'm getting him. Not alone. Amani grabbed his arm. You said I was family. The family doesn't run. Something changed in his expression. Respect that cut like broken glass. Then don't fall behind. They went back through smoke and gunfire, back to the study. Dae-hyun's hand on the scanner. June, it's Daddy. Open up. The door hissed open. June stood inside, toy plane clutched tight, face streaked with tears. He looked at Amani first. You came back. Always. Dawn came painted in ash. The compound stood, broken but standing, bodies removed, guards replaced. Minjun gone, disappeared into darkness. Amani sat on the terrace, watching the sun bleed gold across Seoul. It's over, Dae-hyun said quietly. Is it? The coop is broken. My position is secured. June is safe. He paused. You kept him safe. We kept him safe. Dae-hyun's hand found hers, warm, steady. You could have run. Should have. I know. But you came back. He stopped. For family, Amani finished softly. Inside, June was drawing. This time, the fortress had windows. The guards smiled. The 3 stick figures stood together, unafraid. 3 weeks after the coup, Seoul returned to its rhythm. Morning coffee, rush hour traffic. The compound gates repaired so perfectly you couldn't tell they'd been blown apart. Like violence had never happened. Except it had. Kang Dae-hyun stood in his study, dismantling everything Min-jun had touched. Every corrupted file. Every compromised contact. Every thread of betrayal pulled loose until nothing remained. The work was surgical. Quiet. People simply disappeared from positions of power. Bank accounts froze. Shipping routes changed hands. The underworld whispered about Kang's reach, how he'd purged an entire network without raising his voice. Amani watched from the terrace as guards changed shifts. New faces. Loyalty proven in blood. He's asleep, she said when Dae-hyun appeared beside her, silent as always. Nightmares? None tonight. She smiled slightly. First time this week. June had started sleeping through the night, drawing pictures with color instead of just black lines. Laughing at breakfast instead of pushing food around his plate. Healing took time, but it was happening. Dae-hyun's jaw tightened. I should let you go. The words landed heavy between them. Should, Amani repeated carefully. My world destroys things. His voice was quiet, raw. You've seen it. My son's mother, Min-jun. Everyone who gets close either leaves broken or doesn't leave at all. So you push people away first. He didn't deny it. Amani turned to face him fully. You're afraid. His eyes snapped to hers, sharp, dangerous. But she held steady. Not of enemies, not bullets. She stepped closer. You're afraid of loving something you can't control, something that might choose to leave. Silence stretched. The city lights blurred below them. I failed her, Dae-hyun said finally. Each word is like breaking glass. June's mother. I thought power meant protection. Though if I controlled enough, nothing could touch us. But control is an illusion. And she paid the price. So you locked yourself away. Locked June away. To keep him safe. He's not living, Dae-hyun. He's surviving. There's a difference. His hand curled into a fist. Then what do you suggest? Open the gates? Let him wander Seoul hoping kindness is enough? No? Amani's voice softened. But teach him that walls aren't the only way to stay safe, and show him that trust isn't weakness. Trust got his mother killed. Fear is killing your son. The words hit like a slap. Dae-hyun's expression cracked just for a moment, showing the man underneath the armor. Exhausted. Grieving. Humans. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. How to be both. Father and protector, man and monster. You start by choosing. Choosing what? Amani met his eyes. To let people in. To believe that love doesn't make you weak, it makes you worth protecting. He stared at her, really seeing her. The waitress who'd said yes to walking a boy home. Who'd stood between guns and a child. Who'd run back through fire instead of accepting freedom. You challenge everything I've built. Good. She smiled slightly. Your walls were suffocating everyone, including you. Something shifted in his expression. The fortress began to crack. If I do this? He stopped, started again. If I try, you have to promise me something. What? Don't leave. His voice dropped, vulnerable. June can't lose another person he loves, and He couldn't finish. Amani's chest tightened. I'm not going anywhere. You say that now, but my world is dangerous. I've seen. She stepped closer. I've seen a man who dismantled an empire to protect his son, who runs toward danger instead of hiding behind guards, who's terrified of being loved because it means something can hurt him. Her hand found his. Steady. Warm. I'm not afraid of your world, Dae-hyun. I'm afraid you'll never let yourself out of it. He looked at their joined hands, then at her face, searching for lies and finding none. Protect better, she told him once. He understood now. Protection wasn't just walls and weapons. It was trust, connection, choosing to believe that something was worth the risk of losing it. Okay, he said finally, quietly. I'll try. Amani smiled, real and bright. That's all anyone can do. Inside, June appeared at the glass doors, rubbing his eyes. When he saw them together, his whole face lit up. He pressed his palm against the glass, 3 fingers raised, then pointed at himself, at Amani, at his father, family. Dae-hyun's hand tightened around Amani's. For the first time since his wife died, Kang Dae-hyun chose to believe that walls weren't the answer. That maybe, just maybe, letting people in was the bravest thing he could do. The city stretched below them. Dangerous. Beautiful. Alive. And for the first time, he wasn't afraid of it. He was ready to live in it. With his son. With her. Together. 6 months later. Amani stood at the compound gates, suitcase at her feet. The choice had always been hers. Dae-hyun made that clear from the beginning. Money, new identity, freedom. She could leave whenever she wanted. Today, she wanted to leave. Not forever. Just for a day. You're coming back? June asked from behind her, trying to sound brave. Failing. She turned, found him clutching that toy plane, his lifeline, his anchor. I'm going to see my old neighborhood, visit some people, come back for dinner. She knelt to his level. Is that okay? His small hand found hers. You promise? I promise. People break promises. I don't. She squeezed his fingers. Not to you. He studied her face with those 2 wise eyes, then nodded. The gates opened. Soul sprawled before her, loud, messy, alive. No guards, no surveillance. Just her and the city that used to be her whole world. It felt smaller now. She walked past Moonlight Diner. Someone had reopened it. New name, new owner. The vinyl booths looked the same through the window. A different waitress refilled coffee mugs, feet probably screaming, tips barely covering groceries. Amani kept walking. Her old apartment building looked tired. The hallway light still flickered. But her door, someone else's door now, was freshly painted. Life moved on. She'd thought coming here would feel like mourning. Instead, it felt like visiting an old photograph. Important once, but not home anymore. Home was a 7-year-old boy who slept without nightmares. Home was a man learning to trust again. Home was choosing to stay when leaving would be easier. She returned at sunset, in arms full of art supplies from a shop June had mentioned wanting to visit. He met her at the door, launching himself into her arms with the force of someone who'd been counting minutes. "You came back." "I promised." "I know, but—" He buried his face in her shoulder. "I was still scared." Amani held him tighter. "I'll always come back, June. Always." That evening, while Dae-hyun handled business calls in his study, June spread new markers across the floor. "Will you draw with me?" Amani sat beside him. "What are we drawing?" "Family." He started with 3 figures. Tall one, small one with curly hair and a bright smile. But this time, he added something new. A house behind them. Not a fortress. A house with windows that let light in. A door that opened from the inside. "That's us," he said simply, pointing to each figure. "Daddy. Me. You. It's beautiful." "You know what family means?" June asked, still coloring carefully. "What?" "It means even when you're scared, someone walks you home." Amani's throat tightened. "You walked me home that first night," he continued. "When the bad men came, you didn't have to, but you did. You were a brave kid who asked for help, and you said yes." He looked up at her. "That's what family does. They say yes." Later, after June fell asleep clutching his drawing, Amani found Dae-hyun on the terrace. He stood at the edge, watching the city pulse with life below. Alone the way he'd always been alone, by choice, by protection, by fear. She didn't speak, just stood beside him. "He drew you again," Dae-hyun said quietly. "He drew all of us. He's never drawn me smiling before." His voice caught slightly. "Not since his mother. You smile more now. Because of you." Amani shook her head. "Because you chose to. I just reminded you that you could." Silence stretched between them, comfortable now, earned. "I could give you anything," he said finally. "Money, property, freedom. What do you want, Amani?" She thought about the question. Really thought. "I want June to keep drawing houses with windows. I want you to stop flinching every time someone says they love you. I want Sunday mornings without checking security feeds." She paused. "I want normal, whatever version of normal we can build." "My world doesn't do normal." "Then we redefine it." She looked at him. "On our terms." His hand found hers in the darkness. Warm, steady, choosing connection over isolation. "You could still leave," he said. Not a suggestion, a fact. I could, but home isn't a place, Dae-hyun. It's people, and my people are here." Something in his expression cracked open. Vulnerable, grateful, terrified. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not," she smiled. "But June does, and I made him a promise." "Just him?" "Maybe you too." Her fingers tightened around his. "If you promise something back." "What?" "Keep choosing this. Keep choosing us, even when it's scary." Dae-hyun pulled her closer. His forehead rested against hers. "Every day," he whispered. "I choose this every day." Below them, Seoul glittered like scattered stars. Dangerous. Beautiful. Theirs. Inside, June's drawing lay on the table. 3 figures holding hands, walking toward a house that finally looked like home. That night, Amani passed June's room and heard him talking softly. "Mommy, Miss Amani came back today. Just like she promised. Daddy says promises are important." Pause. "I think you'd like her. She's brave like you, and she makes Daddy smile." Another pause. "I'm okay now, Mommy. We're okay." Amani's eyes burned. She kept walking. Let him have his moment. In her own room, she looked at the city beyond the glass. The same city where a little boy had once asked a tired waitress for help. "Can you walk me home?" She'd said yes, and somehow, walking him home had led her here. To belong. To my family. To choose danger and love in equal measure. To home. Kang Dae-hyun stood in the shadows of the hallway, watching Amani sleep. She'd curled up on the couch with one of June's books, exhausted from their day together. Peaceful. Unguarded. He could have had her erased from records. Hidden away. Made untouchable. Instead, he'd done something more dangerous. He'd let himself love her. Tomorrow, threats will return. Enemies would circle. The underworld would test his weaknesses. But tonight, his son slept without nightmares. Tonight, someone had chosen to stay. Tonight, walking someone home had become something bigger than protection. It had become family. Dae-hyun pulled a blanket over Amani's shoulders and let himself smile. Just a little. Just enough. Thanks so much, my dear friends, for enjoying this beautiful story till this end. If you've not subscribed, kindly subscribe now to be notified when we drop our next story. Also, like the video and comment where you are watching from and what time it's at your end. Thank you.